family. I'm the 10th of 14 children. My father's name was Sam Jones Sr. My mother's name was Ella Blockwood Jones. My mother was born in 1904. My father was born in 1905. They married in 1922. Grew up for the most part, in the country in East Carroll Parish outside of Lake Providence. We were a farm family. In '57, though, we lost the farm and through foreclosure and moved to the town. We continued to do agricultural type work, field work, that kind of thing. In those days, things were a whole lot different than they are now. I can remember when I was a young child, we didn't have electricity in the house or plumbing. Outhouses, was the thing out in the country then. One of the most amazing things when I was about 6 years old, electricity was put in the house, and it just amazed me that you could turn on a switch and lights would be all over the place, when we'd had kerosene lamps and all that kind of thing too for illumination at night. We were, not very well off, small farmers, and we had to supplement what we could make in growing cotton and corn and that kind of thing by working outside for plantation owners, big landowners, that kind of thing. And so we all worked in the fields. I began school in 1949, really in a church house. But there was a two-room school building that was built in front of that church house on a little canal area next to it really was more a ditch type thing. Two classroom house. It had more than one grade level in each room. So if you were in first grade, but you knew how to do third grade work, you could do third grade work. So, it was a challenge for teachers, I'm sure, to teach in the same classroom different grade levels. And we had to walk to school because there were no buses that were provided for African American students. There were buses provided for white students, but we had to walk to school, and that was about 2 miles each way. And then at 7th grade, by the time I got there, that's country school. Understand, we lived in the rural on a farm. That country school was no more. And so we went to a school, a wood structure school in town, in Lake Providence. And then we went from there to a new school called G.W. Griffin High School. It actually had a grade structure, ultimately 7 through 12. And that's where I went to school. This was a modern structure that was built really because of the 1954 decision in Brown versus Board of Education. A new school was built for black children so as to take the pressure off an attempt to desegregate the white schools, which were all better schools. And that tactic worked for many years into the 70s. There was no desegregation there. So it was a segregated school. But our teachers were very dedicated. We always had hand-me-down books, which were books that had been used first in white schools. And the books that we got had the names of students in them, and sometimes underscored, sentences and so forth. And that went on throughout the time that I was in high school, and I graduated in 1962. My major was political science, but I also elected to go into advanced course ROTC. Reserve Officer Training Corps. And that would mean that I would graduate as a second lieutenant if I completed college in that program. I was active on campus, and I suppose my highest achievement was to become editor of the yearbook, which was called the CAT, the 1966 yearbook. I was the editor of that yearbook. But I was politically active and academically did all right. I graduated cum laude, and there were some struggles, particularly my second year. It was a time when I didn't have, a meal card, and that semester was a tough semester, John, because I had to rely upon friends to, who worked in the cafeteria to bring food, left over at the end of the day, and that happened a number of times, and I managed to get through. But there was no quit in me, though. I never thought about quitting. That never crossed my mind. So that was a struggle, a financial struggle there, but that really only applied during my second year of college. My third year, because I was in the advanced corps ROTC, we got paid $60 a month, and that was a godsend. I mean, with that $60 a month, I was able to, to make it fine without having to rely upon, cold hamburgers being brought at the end of the night shift at the cafeteria, and so from then on, I didn't have any problem with food, but that same second year, it was tough. I mean, there were times when I didn't have writing paper, good writing paper to do my work and turn it in to the professor. So there were times when I had to use paper bags, break them open and spread them out for scratch paper, to do that. And then what little paper I had, that was the kind of paper I had to have, transferring the work I'd done, math problems or whatever it was, from that paper bag paper onto the good paper so that I could make it through. I mean, those kinds of things happen, but again, I was never discouraged, and the thought of quitting never crossed my mind. I was going to, by God, finish in 4 years and move on, and that's what happened, and that's what I did do. I really had not thought about becoming a lawyer because I'd never seen a black lawyer. I mean, and so I didn't know any lawyers, period, because I wasn't exposed to that kind of life. So I applied to Boston College, and lo and behold, I was accepted with a full tuition scholarship. After law school, I took the bar exam and passed, and I started working for an outfit called the Boston Legal Assistance Project. It was a legal services agency, and I did that until March of the next year, 1970. But I had graduated from college as a second lieutenant because I'd been in ROTC. And so I had an obligation to the military. So I went in the Army in March of 1970. When I finished my military obligation, I went back to Boston, and I went back to the Boston Legal Assistance Project, the Legal Services Office, as a managing attorney, managing the Roxbury office. Roxbury is the black community in Boston. And so I was in charge of like half a dozen lawyers and some paralegals and secretaries and so forth. I did that from November of 71 to October of 73 when I became an assistant United States attorney. But I left there in 75 to become the deputy legal counsel to Governor Michael Dukakis, who had been elected in the fall of 1974. It was a great opportunity because it taught me, it gave me a much greater understanding of the workings of state government at all the levels. So I did that until the fall of 1977, when I was appointed by the governor as the chief administrative law judge. what it was called the Board of Appeal on automobile liability and bonds. My brother Charles had moved here and was here and wanted me to come to Monroe. So we decided to move to Monroe. Initially, we did just about everything, including bankruptcy, a little bit. Didn't know a whole lot about bankruptcy law, but we did some bankruptcy. You know, personal injury, family law, criminal law. It was a general practice that we did. When in 1985, I became the general counsel to the Monroe City School Board. And I did that until I came on the bench in 1992. But I also was able to get a contract from the Attorney General, Billy Gus at the time, to represent the state in certain lawsuits filed against the state. Most of my work had to do with DOTD stuff, you know, drop-off cases, you know, where somebody drove along and dropped off on the side of the road and overcorrected and caused a bad accident and that kind of thing. And the state would be sued because of the bad condition of the highways and all. So, but that wasn't the only kind of case I handled. I mean, I remember one arose from ULM, and so that was good because I was able to do pretty well financially. I mean, working as the general counsel for the school board, and then, you know, had a lot of work to do for the state. In 1986, black lawyers in Louisiana sued the state because we weren't able to get elected because we had to run at large. And voting is in block, in racial blocks. Blacks vote and black block vote as BLOC, block vote just as whites do. And so in a district that was majority white, black candidates couldn't win. I ran in '88 in the two parishes in our judicial district. I received 29% of the vote, which mirrored within 1 percentage point the black population in the two parishes. Judge Milton Moore, who became a good friend and a good judge, in fact, I was even sworn in his robe, one of his robes, won that election. Paul Kidd Sr. was the other candidate that was in that race in the fall of 1988. And so I ran, I did the media thing and all of it. I mean, it was a real race. It wasn't some spent money I couldn't afford to spend and all that. But I received 29% of the vote. But out of that vote, what's significant to mention is that I received 5% of the white vote and 95% of the black vote. The other 5% was split between now Judge Moore and Paul Kidd. The result of that was that when we won that lawsuit and were able to get districts drawn where elections would not be at large, but from districts that were carved out of the judicial district, a district was created which was 80% black in population. And so I ran for that seat, Division H, that was in that district. And, you know, 95% of the black folks had voted for me anyway in 1988. So when I signed up to run for that seat, nobody ran against me. And so that was a payoff, so to speak, for all that civil rights work I'd done and for having run in '88 and all that. But the reason why black lawyers ran, even though we knew we didn't have a good chance of winning in these at-large seats, is because we had to make a record to show that it wasn't possible to get elected at large. And so we won that lawsuit and got districts drawn in a number of judicial districts, not all of them, just in those that had a sufficient number of African Americans to where you could draw a district where they would be the majority. I was elected in '92 unopposed, and then 3 more times unopposed, and at the end of this term I'm out of here. In '84. I had been a district judge for a couple of years. I was asked to serve on the Second Circuit Court of Appeal during a vacancy there. I wasn't there long. I was there about 3 months, and it was a good experience. I was surprised to be asked, really, because I was a relatively junior judge, but it was helpful to me because it gave me an inside view of how the Court of Appeal works, and how to write opinions that would tell the Court of Appeal what you're thinking and why you did what you did, and it's helped me in my career as a trial judge to have had that experience. But what was a shocker was when Chief Justice Kitty Kimball told me at the Spring Judges Conference in 2009 that the court had voted to offer me an opportunity to sit on the Supreme Court when Justice Chet Traylor retired, effective the end of May of that year. So, I mean, they voted to allow me to sit from June 1st to the end of November, a 6-month appointment. And I think that I was blessed, and I feel blessed about that, because when a person achieves in their profession, a level such as sitting on the Supreme Court, something they never even dreamed about, I mean, I think that person is indeed blessed. And it never, ever crossed my mind that that opportunity would ever be afforded me. The one thing that I want to say about me as a judge when I finish is that I achieved my objective, which was and is to just do everything just right. I mean, to be absolutely fair and straight down the line. Nobody's going to get any hometown decision from me. Nobody's going to get a political decision from me. I am aided in that by the fact that I never had to really run. I mean, I was elected unopposed. I never raised a nickel when I ran in 1992. Or any of the subsequent election, I didn't raise a penny. I didn't form a committee. I didn't do any of it because I felt that the people of my district would, continue to support me because, I worked my tail off and still do to do everything just right, just absolute fairness, no matter who it is or what the issue. That's what I try to do, and I try to reach a decision based on the facts and the law and nothing else.